Daddy, I'm here. Please, Daddy, I'm here. Please.
So, with that said, that video that I posted January 12th, 2022 forever changed my life. Prior to that date, for 6 months, I didn't know if my father was dead or alive. My father, back in 2019, moved to Nigeria, moved to Anambra in particular, to basically live out his Igbo boy dreams. He had built a house, he had worked for New York City for 25 years, and he was retiring on time, he was retiring healthy, and he just wanted to go back home and be with his family, live in his home that he had literally suffered and toiled for being in America all this while. I respected it, and I felt like him moving to Nigeria would obviously, you know, create a new chapter in his life, especially after retirement. And so we welcomed it with, you know, open arms, and I was literally there to send him off when he was flying. And after that, you know, my dad kept in touch. He would call once a week, call for birthdays, call for Christmas, call for holidays. And it wasn't until the end of 2021, I was noticing some distance. I wasn't hearing from him as much. My life was equally as busy, so I didn't put too much thought into it. However, I did find it a little odd, given the fact that my dad and I have such a close relationship. It wasn't until 6 months in that I realized I haven't heard from this man. I would call him, I bought him an iPhone, I would call him with the iPhone, send money for credit. Meanwhile, my dad is on retirement. Money is not his problem. I would send money for retirement. I will send money for this, send money for that. Still, no word. It wasn't until I started to ask some really, you know, really big questions that my uncle and my aunt in the videos now began to pull back and be hesitant to pick up my calls. For 6 months, I didn't know if my father was dead or alive, because when I would call, my auntie would tell me he stepped out, he's sleeping, or she's cooking in the kitchen, she doesn't want to go upstairs, blah, 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 just excuses. So when I went to Nigeria, the Holy Spirit told me, it's time that you check on your dad and you see the physical state of him and make sure that he's okay. I toyed with the idea, like, what did I do? I'm not a serial killer. I'm not a criminal that my dad would literally stop talking to me. Is he dead? I would have dreams of his body being hidden in the back. I would have dreams of him crying at night, you know, calling my name. I would have all these series of dreams. And these were the seeds God was planting inside of me to prepare me for this day. So with January 12, 2022, I fly from Lagos airport to Anambra airport, and I drive down to Enugu, which was maybe like a 15-20 minute drive. And what I saw, no Nigerian movie could prepare me for it. I saw a huge heap of sand blocking my father's gate, which told me nobody can come in and nobody can come out. And clearly, because of this, you know, barrier, it made it very hard for me to have access to the gate. So when I finally did climb the sand pit, my uncle and my auntie saw me and began saying, "How dare you? I'm gonna kill you. You're a prostitute. You sleep in hotels for months on end," and I am just confused. What did I do? I'm just here to check on my dad. Is he here? Where is he? Daddy, are you okay? You know, screaming because now they're throwing sand on me and laying curses and abuses.
And Auntie Joe have literally been throwing sand on me. You see this? You see this? You see this? You see this evil?
All this while I'm just literally trying to find my dad. And the testimony and the story is gonna then follow exactly what had been happening since then. Again, I will not be shamed out of my testimony. Family drama. You know how many family dramas are in the Bible? And yet God has exposed those family dramas to give light to his grace, his glory, his honor. So I don't see any problem with me sharing my family story, especially when I know that that family story shows God's grace, glory, and honor. I will not be bullied. I will not be shamed out of this testimony. I ask for some patience because the Holy Spirit has put it on me to give this testimony, and I want to do it justice. Thank you so much, and I look forward to speaking with all of you guys as I post these series of videos. Thank you, and God bless. After the insult, after the physical attack, I was completely covered in sand. I could actually at one point not see. Some of the youths and other villagers started to kind of basically crowd around because they were hearing the yelling and the noise and all the things that was happening, the commotion. Obviously, this voice doesn't change, so they could already tell that something was off because I didn't sound local. I began to explain myself that I'm the daughter of Peter. I'm the first daughter. I've come all the way from America.
I know you don't know, but see me as your daughter. I've come all the way from America. I've come all the way from America to see my dad. This is what they're doing. This is what they're doing.
The youths, when they started to kind of hear my story and when whispers started to get around, the youths were rallying up to literally beat the out of my uncle and my aunt, because for them, they saw it as an abomination and as a taboo that the daughter of the first daughter, in fact, of the first son of that household will not be allowed into her father's compound. So now the youths are getting rallied up and people don't know what to do. So the Anowu of our community basically decided to call the police. Number one, I was assaulted, and number two, to calm the crowd down, because at this point in time, the tide was turning against my uncle and my aunt. When the police now came, they said, listen, ma'am, you've been physically assaulted. You know, what do you want to do? I said, please, can we just hold off on pressing charges until I find the whereabouts of my father? At that point in time, my uncle and my auntie began screaming and yelling, he's in Abuja, he's in Abuja. I have a text message that I'm going to post up here where my aunt is literally confirming that my dad is in Abuja. And a quick context, I knew my dad wasn't in Abuja because the reason why I was always checking on my dad is because, unfortunately, December of 2020, my dad had a stroke in Nigeria. I had fought for him to come back to America for proper medical treatment, but according to him, he was okay, he was fine, you know, he was seeing a doctor in Anambra. I didn't trust it, I didn't want it. He's a US citizen, come and get the proper medical treatment, but he refused and I could not force him. So when that happened, I just let him and his family basically plan out his care, but I was always on top to make sure my dad was okay. But after December 2020, basically, I was noticing my dad's state of health decreasing, and I was constantly having issues with my aunt and my uncle in feeling like they were purposely making him stay in Nigeria rather than him come to America for proper medical treatment. So fast forward now back to the present time, I found it hard that a stroke-ridden man could now endure 9+ hours on the road from Anambra to Abuja, and then whether he went by plane, I don't know, but something was just telling me my dad did not go to Abuja, nor was he in Abuja. So when the police now realized that it was a welfare check that I was making on behalf of my dad, they told me that I'm obviously allowed into my father's compound and that, you know, I should, you know, go into my father's compound and be rest assured that nothing would happen to me. When I got into the compound, it was more yelling. Villagers were still asking questions. Why did my uncle and my aunt feel the need to verbally and physically assault me? And they began making more lies, but nobody was believing them. It was just kind of like, what is going on? And that's something that I want to share, that when you do wickedness, you actually have no common sense. Like the Holy Spirit, God cannot let you do something evil and think that you've literally checked off every single box. So the wickedness that my uncle and my auntie were trying to sow in the people, all you needed was common sense to realize that these two individuals were lying. Eventually, it started to get really late at night, and people were kind of like getting restless because there wasn't really any new developments. And my uncle and my aunt now called my uncle, Christopher, who's also a relative and the brother of my father. And he went on speaker to say, hey guys, I am in Abuja. Yes, Peter's in Abuja with me. I'm so sorry. I'm not home right now, or I would have given Peter the phone. Please, let's all come back tomorrow and I'll put Peter on the phone so that we can all talk because it's getting very late. When the villagers heard that, when some of the people heard that, they said, okay, Peter's in Abuja. When I heard that, I looked around just so dazed and so confused, and an older woman looked at me and said, lies. They're lying. Your father is upstairs. And that literally shook me. So as everybody's getting up to start walking out into the main road, I said, why do tomorrow what we can do now? You guys said I'm allowed into my father's compound. Well, then I should be equally allowed into my father's house, and I want to check his room. Some of the men and villagers were like, oh, it's getting late. I'm like, sir, we're already here. Let's just check. Let's just find out, if my father is indeed here or not. I can see the panic in my aunt and my uncle's faces. And eventually everyone agreed, like, yeah, we're already here. Like, let Christopher confirm if Peter's in Abuja, but let us also do our work and make sure that Peter's not into that house. So eventually everyone agreed, yes, right now, even though it's really late at night, let us all confirm if Peter's inside the house. So I decided that I needed people around me because I'm still scared. I can feel the Holy Spirit with me, but I was still in my flesh scared because obviously I was physically attacked. So many people are around me. I am new to this entire experience. I don't know even 1/3 of the people that are talking to me. So I asked for a police officer to accompany me upstairs, and then the Enugu youth leader to accompany me upstairs. And guys, what I discovered when I went upstairs shook my core. I went upstairs to my dad's floor, and as I entered into the living room, I kid you not, it felt like I was entering into a graveyard. I could see death in the corner, and I was looking at death, and death was looking at me. And then I finally looked down, and I can see my father on the floor, on a dirty mattress, covered in just unimaginable things. My dad's beard was so long, his nails were so long, his mouth was so dry. When I looked at him, I felt my soul mourn. And I was like, really? This was what the abuse was for, to hide this. I'm sorry, the maltreatment, the malnourishment of my father. And again, in the first part, I told you guys my dad was on pension. He was collecting about almost $5,000 between his pension and his Social Security a month. And my dad looked like he hadn't eaten food in months. Just laying there in his own house on the floor, his skin, his bones withering away. And I give God the testimony for using me to basically unlock the evil that my uncle and my uncles and my aunt were doing to my dad. At that point in time, when I discovered him, I asked him a series of questions because I knew his mouth was so dry he couldn't even speak. He could only give me yes or no answers. So I asked him, I said, do you know who I am? He said yes. I asked him, do you know that I love you? He said yes. I asked him, do you love me? He said yes. I said, Dad, the devil has played with your life for way too long. I'm here to let you know that I'm here to take you. Be strong, I am coming.